Another interaction we might want to look at is row spacing in population. So, the question is, should I plant at a narrower row spacing? In a lot of situations, that does make sense. And we can see here, it's worth a couple bushels in yield if you have the ability to plant in 20-inch rows over 30s. And that's pretty consistent. We've seen that, this is data from 2021, but we've seen that pretty consistently over the last few years. So you see, a little bit of a ROI benefit from planting in narrower rows. Now, when we talk about narrow rows, one thing we could be concerned about is if you're going to go into narrower rows, would you see more lodging, or would you see more lodging in 30-inch rows where the plants are closer together? So we know as we crowd plants, they grow a little bit taller, they're a little more likely to fall over.
Yep.
But what we saw here is, yes, at a higher population, yes, we see more lodging. Again, fairly low. This is also a 1 to 9 scale, where 1 was very little lodging and 9 would be flat on the ground. And so you can see this is more leaning than lodging, I would say. But we do see increase with higher population, but we did not see a correlation between the row width and the lodging. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I knew what to expect, but that's what we've kind of seen over the last couple of years.
It's interesting. So more plants per row space may have the same effect if you are seeing that trend line.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So again, do the narrower rows make a difference in disease development? We know that a lower population can help with disease development. We saw some data there. But does it make a difference if that's in 20-inch rows or 30-inch rows? And we, again, as we go higher in population, we see more disease development, but the 20-inch rows had slightly more disease development than the 30-inch rows. But if we put that on a 1 to 9 scale rather than a 1 to 2.6, that difference is
minimal.
Going to be hard to see. Yep. And again, it all comes back to profitability. So this is a compilation of 3 years of data across 3 different locations. Again, those replications we were talking about. When we look at the planting rate, we look at the row width. We see a higher yield, income potential in the narrower rows, which we talked about that earlier, but we don't really see a correlation between the row width and the population. So it's not like in a 20-inch row, 160,000 makes sense, and in a 30-inch row, 120,000 is the best, or vice versa. Really, if you can get into 20s, it's kind of a separate conversation. What do you think is your best population? What row width do you think is your best? But you don't necessarily have to be concerned about, kind of fine-tuning it based on what system you're going with.